Welcome to another program for In Good Company. This is the Pittsburgh Downtown Community Development Corporation podcast. We're doing with leaders of the community. Today, we're really delighted to have two government leaders, one who represents the county and one who represents the city. County Councilman DeWitt Walton. DeWitt Walton represents the downtown area as well as the Hill District, and we're going to be talking about the Lower Hill and some of the things that have gone on there. Councilman Walton was born in Mississippi, raised in Indiana, but has been in Pittsburgh for the last 25 years. He's a 25-year employee of the United Steelworkers, part of the Civil and Human Rights Department. He lives in the Hill District. He's the District 10 representative for Allegheny County Council, finishing up his first term. Represents a lot of the eastern neighborhoods of the city of Pittsburgh and then goes off across the city line into Wilkinsburg and some other eastern suburban communities. Councilman Lavelle, City Councilman Daniel Lavelle, he was born and raised in the Hill District, so he's been in this district his entire life. He's a graduate of Shenley High School, went on to get his bachelor's degree from Kent State University, returned home, worked in the private sector for a while before running for office for himself. He's been on city council since got elected in 2009. So for about the last 10 years, he's been representing downtown in the Hill District and some of the neighborhoods of Oakland, South Oakland, West Oakland, the Bluff, Perry Hilltop, some of the North Side communities. He also represents the CDC as the president of the board. So he kind of wears two hats along this line. We've seen downtown change over the last, certainly, Councilman, since you've been in office the last 10 years, where there were maybe 1,000 or 2,000 residents living in downtown Pittsburgh. Now I think we have over 10,000 residents who are living in downtown Pittsburgh. And as you know, we've seen some of these changes, and you've been part of many of them. I want to start with Councilman Lavelle and kind of get a take of what you've seen over your tenure and what you see happening in the downtown area.
So I think downtown is actually a very exciting place. As you've already noted, there are a whole lot more residents who now live downtown, and with that comes new challenges, sort of different challenges. I'll tell people the very first piece of legislation I ever worked on was around how do you move trash collection vehicles through downtown Pittsburgh, because our residents who are being awakened at night to the sound of a trash collector, that beep, beep, beep sort of sound. And at 3 a.m, and you have to wake up, as the one gentleman who called me informed me that at 5 a.m, he had to be at the hospital to perform surgery. And so that wasn't a good thing for him. But figuring out how to deal with sort of the corporate community that we have downtown and the growing residential population is actually a good problem to have. One of the things that we did at the CDC was work on a dog park for downtown. So now we're sort of beginning to try to look at what are all the various amenities that are necessary to support the residents of downtown. And it's how does downtown continue to grow, supporting both the corporate and the public and the private sector.
And Councilman Walton, I want to expand this a little bit. You live in kind of the Lower Hill area, and as the Lower Hill is now being kind of reconnected again to downtown, as downtown is in essence expanding in many ways, both commercially with some of the office properties, but also from residential standpoint. You were part of the lobbying that many of us did to get the federal funds to reinstitute the CAP, or the park that's now being constructed to reconnect the Lower Hill to downtown Pittsburgh. Give me your thoughts, and as you're finishing your first term, some of the things you've seen and what you see coming up over the next few years.
Thanks. I believe that there is an incredible opportunity that continues to emerge from development. But along with the opportunities come commensurate kinds of challenges. When I came to Pittsburgh for the first time in 1981 for a round of negotiations when the bottom was falling out of the steel industry, we'd meet here at the William Penn, and downtown was vibrant, energy, development. And so with the Lower Hill and the CAP gives a real sense of opportunity for reconnection of the folks in the middle and upper hill to the Lower Hill of 50 years ago. Some of the amenities, some of the opportunities for family engagement and entertainment. And so that's a real opportunity. But the challenge is, as it is developed, you, State Representative Wheatley, Daniel Lavelle, Congressman Doyle, and a whole host, Senator Costa, a host of folks put a ton of energy in ensuring that the cap, or creating the opportunity for the cap to be built. So the riches that come with that development are shared by everyone. That with the development, the design, the construction, and the jobs that will remain after all of that goes on has to be shared by everyone. And we all have a role in having meaningful kinds of dialogue to ensure that those things occur. We won't agree on every point, and we might have to push and shove on some of those. But again, the sense that we all share a common goal gives me hope and gives rise to the belief that we will continue to achieve good for all impacted communities.
Well, let me continue along those. I want to ask Councilman Lavelle. Obviously, you live in the Hill District. You grew up there. You also have extremely deep roots, family members going back generations. While you weren't around when the Civic Arena take was done in the late 50s, but you certainly have family members that were. How important is it for you? And I know you spent many times going to Washington with me and others, going down to lobby Secretary Fox at the time to get that money, to get that Tiger grant that Congressman Doyle was so instrumental in helping us get. Tell me what first of all, what it means to you and you know, the history of you growing up there and your family being from there, but also what it means to the future.
I think it's tremendous for the future of the Hill District as well as downtown. I've said this sort of since day one, since you are accurate, we started lobbying for this. For me, this is more than just the pure physical connection of connecting the two neighborhoods, but it's also one that's hopefully going to help connect commerce between the downtown and the Middle Hill. You have downtown, which is the second most populated business district in our state, and you have the Hill District community, which unfortunately has a population with an average income of somewhere around $18,000. And some of it is purely, ever since we demolished the Lower Hill, as you mentioned, in the 50s, and the subsequent fires that took place after King's death, the Hill District community has never rebounded from then, economically or socially. And I think this presents this sort of unique opportunity to say, let's begin bringing what is good, all of what is good about downtown into the Middle Hill District, Upper Hill District. Let's take the individuals who have sort of suffered through the bad times. Let's make sure that, as County Councilman DeWitt Walton mentioned, they have an opportunity to work on the site, pre-construction, during construction, post-construction, that if there's an opportunity to open up a business, that they're able to do so, that we're looking at what are the entrepreneurial opportunities that exist, how do we get the small business owner in the Middle Hill to get a contract so that they can really, as sort of close to $1 billion is sort of deployed through this development, that it really does lift all boats, and that the people living in this community are able to economically benefit, that they're able to stay here and live. I'll plug it since it's on my mind. On September 12th at 6 o'clock, there's actually going to be a contractors meeting at the EIC to talk about specifically this project, both the Lower Hill, the entire Lower Hill project, to sort of say, are you interested in working on this site? Come one, come all. How do we begin plugging you into the opportunities that are going to present themselves right now?
And I think that's one of the things I think we have to talk about is how will this project and projects as it expands, how will this benefit folks? I mean, some of the critics say you're just going to be displacing people, particularly people of color, that the opportunities aren't going to be there for folks who live in the community. Councilman Walton, kind of your take. What do you say to those critics? What do you say to how we as a community need to make sure that these opportunities are for all, particularly the folks from the community?
On the housing component, there's always going to be some dissent. And dissent by its very nature isn't necessarily bad. It gives you an opportunity to temper your response. In terms of displacement, all of the work that, for the most part, is going to take place on the 28 acres. And out of that, there is going to be some significant levels of affordable housing. I grant you that some individuals may say that there's not enough units. Some critics may say AMI, or average median income, levels are too high. There's going to be room for the naysayers to comment. The reality of it all is, from my perspective, is as much as we want and need affordable housing, a higher priority is to raise per capita income of the entire community. Because as Councilman Lavelle said, a rising tide lifts all boats. If we're able to provide substantive employment opportunities for family-sustaining careers, that changes a whole host of dynamics, not only on the lower hill, but through the middle hill and the upper hill as well. It gives the dynamics that are needed to support a grocery store and avoid replications of the Shop and Save. It gives us an opportunity to really change a host of issues. Councilman Lavelle has done a yeoman's job, in my opinion, in attempting to deal with some of the housing disparities that occur throughout the middle and the upper hill. And the county has played a critical role in helping to sustain a host of institutions that continue to operate in the Hill today. So it is about meeting challenges in a straightforward manner and debating and discussing and moving forward and coming forth with positive solutions.
I think it's important to note that one development can't cure all that ails a community, right? This one development can't put, I think the city is short approximately 17,000 units of affordable housing. You're not going to achieve that through this one development. And as the councilman already mentioned, we absolutely in the Hill District need market rate development to support a business district that we're trying to develop on Center Avenue, to support a grocery store that hopefully we'll be able to bring back for the community. It's also important to note that this one development, although we're going to attempt to, we can't cure all that ails the community, and we can't cure the neglect that the community has been affected over the last 50 to 60 years. But with that being said, to your earlier question of how do we address the issue, we should acknowledge that we did contemplate this day and time, and that we all collectively sat around the table some years back, argued, fussed, pushed, and ultimately reached an agreement with the developer, who is ultimately the Pittsburgh Penguins, to sort of say, how do we ensure that this community benefits? And how do we ensure that there's affordability on this site? And how do we ensure that when you build this out, I think 30% is what's in the agreement, 30% of the residents actually working on the site are coming directly from the community. And so we thought this all through, and so we don't need to have that argument any longer. What we have to do now is look at the agreement we all reached and actually work to implement it. And so that's what we're now doing by having the meeting I mentioned on the 12th. That's what we're going to continue to do as we have worked with the Penguins and as we collectively sort of sit around these tables, is ensure that we follow through on what we all said we want to accomplish when we all were sitting around the table 3 years ago. We're just now finally in a place to actually realize it.
Yeah, one of the things I also want to follow up on something you mentioned about that meeting at the EIC. And for those that don't know, the EIC is the Energy Innovation Center on Bedford Avenue. Most old Pittsburghers will remember it as the Conley Trade School, which has been converted to a training and research development for folks in the energy and the construction industry. They're doing some really good, innovative things. And I know Ron Sapp and Ricky O from the operating engineers and the carpenters, they bring in a couple dozen folks, many from the community every couple of weeks to get them into the building trades. For example, we have a real shortage right now of workers in the building trades because of all the construction that's going on, not just on this site, but on many sites. How did we get the word out there to folks in the community that these opportunities are available so that our young people know about something that literally they can walk to, that's right in the neighborhood, right down the street, that they can get to and have a good, solid career, a good middle-class lifestyle, and avail themselves to those opportunities?
Not only are the opportunities available, they're very real. DeWitt knows this better than I. and I try to press upon, you already mentioned the shortage. They're now to the point where the last word that I was given was, if you come and if you get trained, we're promising you placement. We will promise you a job. That's the first time I've ever seen that they will promise you no matter what, you will get placed. And so the opportunity is very real. In terms of how do we get the word out, we've been trying. I know DeWitt, he has classes. He tries to get the word out. He hired someone at one point to just hit the street and start passing out information. We'll do it via my office, emails, newsletters. For one meeting, I did a robocall to people to inform them of it. So social media, this podcast, however we can, we will absolutely try to get the word out as best we can. But the opportunities is now, and they're very, very real.
And I think that's, I'm going to turn over to Councilman Walton, because you do a lot of this with employment and opportunities. For the first time in many years, for folks in the community, there's hope. Exactly what you said. You will get a job. If you complete this program, you're guaranteed of having a job at the end of that. And that's not anything that we could say very many years ago. So, Councilman, talk about some of the projects you work on, A. Philip Randolph, et cetera, among other things in your work with the steelworkers.
First, I want to say that you're a living example of practicing what you preach. You, as county executive, a number of years ago, signed on to ex-President Obama's Second Chance resolution that was a form of banning the box, so to speak. And you've demonstrated by your actions that I can speak to of your commitment to hiring folk, irrespective of their history. You're concerned about where they're headed, not where they've been. And kudos to you, Rich, for doing just that. But to the immediate point, Ron Sapp is a friend and an ally, and also he's on the board of directors of an operation that I run called the Pittsburgh A. Philip Randolph Institute, Breaking the Chains of Poverty. Both of us, in different settings, train individuals for the construction and building trades. We do a little bit different, a little bit beyond that, not only for the building trades, but also for the manufacturing and the emerging energy sector. And Councilman Lavelle is absolutely correct. There are more opportunities than there are people that are taking advantage of them. Right now, the building trades are saying if you meet their specs, they will guarantee and go through either the Breaking the Chains of Poverty or the EIC Intro to the Trades. They will be able to place you. We got a call last week from an employer in the trades. Hey, I need bodies to flag. I need bodies to work on highway projects. It's the same similar kinds of issues in manufacturing, and the county is passing some legislation called CPACE that promises to provide numerous employment opportunities where it reduces costs for building owners as they operate their buildings if they reduce their energy consumption. So there's a ton of work out there, ton of opportunities. If you are interested in some of that training, www.pittsburghapri.org. That's our website. Go to the Builders Guild for Intro to the Trades, for the program up at the Energy and Innovation Center. The time is now to change the dynamics on what goes on in the lower, middle, and upper hill.
Well, we're running near the end of our time, and I'm going to have each one of you maybe just do a wrap-up final analysis of what you're talking about. There's so much going on right now. We're excited about the opportunities, whether it's in the lower hill, whether it's in downtown, the vibrancy that keeps happening, and the hope, the opportunities for young people and for all people to see what's happening. You mentioned it at your 5 o'clock. Things used to shut down. It's not that way anymore. It goes on, and it's not just on Friday and Saturday nights. It's all week. That there's restaurants and shows and different events and things going on. Whether it's in Market Square, whether it's in the Cultural District, wherever it might be. Councilman Lavelle, again, thank you for being here, and just give you last word that you'd like to sign off on.
Sure. Earlier in the show, you mentioned the demolition of the Lower Hill. And that was at the hands of government. Government decided to do that. I'm proud. I'm not proud of that decision then. I wasn't around then. But I am proud of government's direct and intentional efforts now to rebuild this community. And I'm proud of the work I've done. I'm proud of the partnerships that I have with you, County Executive, and County Councilman Walton. And I think we have a really exciting opportunity before us. I think the merging of downtown and the Hill District is going to become just a fabulous development. My only ask is that anyone who hears this, whether they reach out to me or you or any one of the three of us, that they be engaged, they be active, they come to the meetings, they learn how they can participate, they learn how they can be a part of the redevelopment of this heart of our city and county, so that we can indeed have a community that is truly thriving and for the benefit of all of us.
From my perspective, I just want to say that I made a brilliant decision in 1995 when I came to Pittsburgh and decided that I was going to plant my flag in the Hill District. It was a great investment, a great strategic plan without me knowing at that time. And it has afforded me an incredible opportunity. Get to meet folks like Daniel and Jake and Sala, and through my relationship with the steelworkers, get a chance to meet and work with folks like you, Rich. There has been a real transformative process that's gone on. I'm proud to be part of it. I'm proud to be part of the collaborative effort, and pledge to continue to do whatever I can to make sure that everyone that is committed to transforming their lives get a chance to live out their dream.
Well, I want to thank both of our guests for being with us today, City Councilman Daniel Lavelle, County Councilman DeWitt Walton. Also want to thank John Valentine and the Downtown CDC and the board, President Lavelle among the board members, to have this platform and this podcast to talk about our community and the great things that are happening. We'll be with you again next month. Thank you very much, and take care.